Lonely Monk Productions. Hey guys, Nate here. Real quick at the top of the show, I just want to mention that throughout this interview with Josh today, I constantly say that the show at City Winery here in Philadelphia is on December 4th, and it is not. It is on Wednesday, December 3rd. I want to make that correction up here, up front, and clearly the show at City Winery with Amy Mann, Ted Leo, Paul F. Tompkins, Nellie Mackay, and Josh Gondelman is on December 3rd, okay? Mark it in your books. Tickets still available, but they're going fast, so they're almost all gone. If you want to go, get those tickets immediately for December 3rd. December 3rd, not the 4th. I'm stupid. I apologize. Okay, on with the show. I don't know if y'all have heard the latest De La Soul album, Cabin in the Sky, yet, but yo...
That's my Jawn!
Hey, yo, displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure. You're tasting things that don't need to be measured. You ain't being What's good, friends and family, neighbors near and far? Welcome to an all-new episode of the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast. The podcast, website, brand, movement, way of life dedicated to the embrace and championing of your passions. I'm your host, Nate Runkle, a.k.a. John Wilkes Booth, a.k.a. Nate 3.0. Back at it again with yet another episode of the podcast. As always, I hope this podcast finds you all in good health and in good spirits. On today's episode, I am joined by comedian Josh Gondelman to talk about his career in comedy and his latest stand-up special, Positive Reinforcement. And of course, we get into so much more than that, and that is coming up in a bit. But first, hola, my friends. Happy Thanksgiving week. You know, the run of Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, that is easily my favorite time of year. You know, not to pretend that it isn't stressful navigating the holidays and like the end of the year and stuff, but man, oh man, do I love the trilogy of holidays where eating is front and center, be it candy or turkey or pies or cookies or whatever it is. I so look forward to feeding my fat face for 3 months straight. And Thanksgiving, well, hell, that's the pinnacle right there. I love a turkey meal. I love seconds. I love thirds. And on top of that, oh boy, I love leftovers. I know how gluttonous I sound here, but get in my belly, turkey. Let's go. You know, then once we cross the gobble gobble threshold, it's go time and it's Christmas, and boy, am I ready. Y'all know this by now, but I love Christmas music, which is wild to me because I worked in retail through my 20s in a crowded mall year after year, and I had all but sworn off Christmas music. I never wanted to hear it again, but now inject it straight into my blood. I can't wait until it is socially acceptable to start blaring it in the car because, low-key, I've already started not just listening to Christmas Johns in my headphones, but I've been playing them nightly, working on the playlist for this year's 'Twas the Jawn Before Christmas, which I have decided will be on December 20th this year. For those not in the know, 'Twas the Jawn Before Christmas is my yearly ukulele sing-along live stream that I do playing all of the holiday hits. You know, as I have for the past few years, we'll have some guests swinging through as well, so you definitely will not want to miss it. I'm even working on my own rework of a holiday classic, which I will be debuting on the stream, so stay tuned for that. We also have another holiday hang for you with the Brothers Ferris coming up. I love having any excuse to get my pals James and DX on the show to chat, but our Christmas episodes, boy, I look forward to those every year. So that's some of what's on the horizon here to close out the year. I might try to sneak another interview in there or whatnot on the off weeks, but the best way to stay on top of all of it and stay in the know, as you may know, is to jump on the website and subscribe to the mailing list. Visit www.yothat'smyjawn.com. That link tree has links to the show, to guest appearances on other podcasts and merchandise and so much more. So check that out. You can also follow up on the socials at Yo That's My Jawn on pretty much everything, regardless of how active I may be on them. If you subscribe to the YouTube, you can see videos from the show and also from Too Old, Too New with Nate and Bruce, as well as some live performances and things like that. And last but not least, check us out on Substack at yothat'smyjawn.substack.com. There, you can see video versions of this show as well as read the occasional article from yours truly. It's all out there. I have provided you with the content. Now go and devour it. Well, okay, wait, not right now. First, enjoy this. My guest today is an Emmy Award-winning writer and comedian who has worked on the shows Billy on the Street, Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, Desus and Mero, and contributed to the final season of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, just to name a few. His latest stand-up special, Positive Reinforcement, is out now and is available to stream for free on YouTube. And on December 3rd, he will be in town here alongside Amy Mann, Ted Leo, Paul F. Tompkins, and Nellie Mackay for their Christmas show at City Winery. Folks, it is my honor to welcome to the show, Josh Gondelman. Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined today by the great Josh Gondelman. Josh, thank you for joining me on Yo That's My Jawn.
Thank you so much for having me. I love to talk Johns.
So I'm super excited to talk for multiple reasons. I've been a fan for quite some time, but we actually share something in common. I always like to kind of open things up with something that connects me with the guest, be it how I interact with their creativity or whatnot, or something else. And for us, it's something else. We are both alumni of the Risk podcast. So
that's fun. Yeah, that's so great. I haven't. It was a while ago, but it was like one of the big OG storytelling podcasts. Really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually gotten to go on there. I think I did my second live performance earlier this year that hasn't aired yet. But
cool.
But I've been on there like 2 or 3 times, and
awesome.
Always a good time.
Yeah, Kevin's great and the whole team.
Yeah, so that was like one of the first podcasts I ever got into. So like to be able to full circle come and tell some stories on there, it felt super cool.
That's awesome. That's the best.
The first story I told, the listeners probably know this, but the first story I told was finding out in 2023 through a Black Friday 23andMe deal that my father is not my biological father.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like he had passed away a few years before that. My mom had passed away 20 some years ago. So I didn't have anybody to kind of bounce that off of.
Yeah.
And so I just told it on stage instead.
Cool. Yeah. I understand that impulse well.
Right. You know, I always said I always felt more comfortable telling personal things to like a stranger in a bar. And this being one of the most personal things, I told 2 million of people across the globe.
Absolutely. Scale it up.
That's exactly right. So I always like to start things off in the very beginning. Tell me a little bit about yourself growing up. Where did you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in Stoneham, Massachusetts. It is a little town, about 23,000 people, I think, when I was growing up there, just outside Boston. And it was very, very suburban, like the kind of place where, like in the afternoons after school, we would go to the parking lot behind the shopping center and just like see what was flammable.
Yeah.
Just like shithead teenager stuff.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. What was going on around the house? Like, was there a lot of comedy around the house, or?
Yeah, my parents liked. I was exposed to comedy from a young age for sure. My dad would play me like records. We had like Smothers Brothers and stuff, and they were always both my parents were very encouraging about like listening to and enjoying comedy. We would watch like. They were also, though, a little protective about certain things, like in terms of so Nancy Kerrigan, the figure skater, is from my hometown, and she hosted Saturday Night Live. And my parents, when she hosted, I must have been like 8 or 9. And so they would like they watched it before me and then would fast forward through the stuff that was inappropriate in their minds. So like it was a lot of that kind of thing. So they were like encouraging. They were like, oh, we like that this kind of lights up your brain and that you have fun with it. But also it wasn't just like go wild. And then when when I started being able to, when I had like, you know, a little walking around money from holidays and allowance and stuff and babysitting or whatever, you know, my tween and teen years, I would go, I bought comedy records were really, or CDs at that point, and that was really big for me. I actually, you know what? I jumped a step. The big kind of cache of early comedy records for me were, my dad was a member of the BMG Music Club. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh my God.
And you could get like, the deal was like, oh, you get essentially your first 12 CDs for a penny plus shipping and handling. And so he let me, and maybe my sister too, who was a little younger, pick a bunch of stuff that was just like for me. And then he was subscribed to the monthly subscription service. And I believe I might be leaving something out. No, I think this is it. It was Jeff Foxworthy's "You Might Be a Redneck" album, which is huge, went multi-platinum.
Yeah, for sure.
People don't remember that. It was like a big seller. Ellen DeGeneres' album, I forget the name of it, but she's like floating in a bowl of alphabet soup on the cover. A Monty Python big double cassette. These are all cassettes at this point. And then at my dad's suggestion, Bill Cosby's Greatest Hits, which, you know, it's like fraught to talk about now, but it was very formative.
For sure. You know what? Like, you know, I'm a child of, you know, I was born in 1977, so I'm a child of the 1980s. You know, Bill was our father. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, and
for sure.
So, and not just on the Cosby Show, but just the, you know, Bill Cosby himself was such, you know, talking about storytelling was such like a formative thing for me that like, oh boy, the turn. You know, like,
I know, really. Like grisly, but it is, I don't know, I always not struggle, but I always try to be really delicate to talk about it, because I think it's like it's kind of dishonest to just like omit that, because he's he's complicated to talk about now as a person who did very bad things while also creating really influential and beloved art.
Yeah. I mean, well, you know, it's especially over the past few years, it's been really challenging to kind of navigate things like, so I'm a big fan of our local AAA non-commercial station in Philly is WXPN 88.5, and every year they do a countdown, right? And this year's countdown is the 885 greatest cover songs of all time.
Oh,
all
cool.
right? And it's all listener voted on. And one of the ones that I wanted to put on my list, though didn't really fit because of the rules. They have very weird rules on what constitutes a cover. Like the original. The original artist can't appear on it. So that negated what was going to be one of my top 3 picks would have been the Run DMC Walk This Way.
Right. Okay.
Which is huge.
Yeah, for sure.
But, Steven Tyler and Joe Perry are both on that. And then on top of that, I don't know how much of Steven Tyler's book you've heard about, but I don't necessarily want to talk about Steven Tyler ever again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
it's really tough. And I think there's a difference between like, you know, the way people talk about separating the art from the artist in quotes, because I don't think you can. I do think it is possible to discuss the art and also the artist, but it just makes it there's a more delicate and layered conversation that has to happen. And I totally understand when somebody, you know, I think there are artists whose work meant a lot to me. You know, I'm not listening to Bill Cosby's Greatest Hits now, right. 2025, but I think to talk about that, or like to talk about the impact of like R. Kelly's music on people, and to not negate the harm he did as well, is like it's not a problem to do. Again, it's just like you got to lift with the knees when you're like doing both things at once.
It's so true. It's so true. You know, it's funny because, we were talking about risk. The last story I told was about something that, which is quite possibly the most noteworthy thing I ever created, is something that I never really talk about, because I created it when I was like 18, around there. And it was like, but it got written up up in like the Washington Post. It got, Complex Magazine had talked about it and stuff like that. But it was a website called Cartoon Girls I Want to Nail. And it was just real in detail satire things I wanted to do to cartoon characters, essentially, right? But like going back and reading it in 2025, like that was me, you know what I mean? It's not like even experiencing something that somebody else did, like, and the whole risk piece was me trying to reconcile that, and so like, doing that with somebody else's art is one thing, but doing it with my own art has been something very weird. You know what I mean? Like, because one of the things I talk about was like I was I'm Gen X, so like I'm like the edgelord kind of humor was everything. Like it was all about pushing the bounds and stuff like that, and like
I also think that you can do stuff that even feels fairly mainstream at the time. Not that there's no pushback against something or no dissenting opinion, but like you do really have to kind of ultimately, as I'm getting older, I'm like, oh, you really have to be your own barometer of what is like good and thoughtful art. And because even when something is firmly within the mainstream, 10, 15, 20 years later, you might go, oh gosh, I can't believe that this is what I was putting out into the world. And I certainly have stand-up jokes from the beginning of my career where I go, you know what? Even some stuff that I'm like, I didn't stand behind this. This was like trying to skate by with things that audiences would like rather than something that feels meaningful to me. And then there were other things where I go, oh, I just didn't know then what I know now. And I hope that I didn't do harm to anyone with my art or like cause people to be upset and like, and to track that growth in myself. It's like a really, I think that is like kind of the thing to do, right? Is to like look back and go like, how have I changed? How can I continue to like make work that I feel proud of on all those different levels?
Yeah. And, like, I think that's one of the big things that I think differentiates it, you've done it, I've done it, is the own acknowledgement and acceptance and kind of reconciling that, as opposed to like somebody calling it out and then you going, it was fucking different times, get over it. You know what I mean? Like,
because it can be both, right? Like it can be a different time. You go, oh, this felt like it was something that was allowable or even like good, not even just like, oh, I could get away with it, but this didn't feel wrong. And then you go, oh, for sure. I understand like what about what I said or did, even though nobody was like telling me to tap the brakes, what I could have known then and what I certainly do know now. Yeah. I think that's like, and like, what else are you going to do? Because otherwise, right, like you said, you just kind of dig in and then you never like feel growth. You never experience growth and change.
Yeah. For me, like one of the things that really helped me was somebody that I admire greatly was like, this is kind of gross. And it was the first time like I stopped and I was like, oh shit, like that wasn't my intent. My intent was to make someone laugh. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and if it like, even just getting that reaction, like I didn't have the initial, like you just didn't get it. Like because it was somebody I admired. Yeah. I was like, oh no, like, I don't know, like it's really weird to navigate. Like how do, like, you're someone who, is I think very open to kind of self-reflection and stuff like that. How do you go about like in the moment now? What has your process changed at all writing? Like, is there anything that you would write currently that you kind of?
Yeah. I mean, I think I have like not even fail safes, because that sounds like I'm trying to avoid like something going awry, but it's definitely like a check down list of like, okay, does this sit right with me? Am I talking about something that I've experienced, or something that feels like, if I'm talking about people or systems outside of me, that I'm doing it with like respect and consideration, right? Like not just trashing people that don't deserve it, frankly. And then and then it goes from there of like, okay, now I'll check with like my wife and go like, does this make sense to you? And because I think she's really thoughtful, she's a writer, and then sometimes I'll go like outside of that, I'll go like, oh, this is a joke about a certain demographic. Let me check with a comedy friend to see if that feels right. And then like if it's about, or if the joke is about a certain person, I guess like to make it concrete, on my last special, Positive Reinforcement, out now on YouTube,
available on
Medicine.
YouTube, yes.
Yeah. There's like a pretty substantial chunk that is about having dated someone who has since transitioned their gender. And it took me a while to get it right, just for my own sake, just to get it like to a place where I went, this feels right when I say it. I feel like the laughs are coming on the right things. I'm not like selling out myself or this person I dated, who's now my friend. Still, we've been friends for a long time. And I don't think I'm saying anything gross or out of line. But it took me a little while. And I think probably early versions of the joke were probably a little clunkier. And I think there's probably more, if people had critique of it, there was probably more meat on the bone in terms of like, oh, that doesn't quite sit right with me. And I'm sure I would have gone like, yeah, and I think Chris Rock has spoken really at length, I think, and thoughtfully about needing a space to try things out in comedy, where like, I do think sometimes you don't hear how something is going to land until you've tried it. And I think like you can put you can do it in good faith, and you can put your best foot forward. And like, I just think doing what you can at that level, before it gets out in front of audiences, and then hearing what it sounds like when it's coming out of your mouth to a group of strangers is like kind of a different thing. And so I felt very grateful that like the audiences I went up in front of were understanding. I probably did a little couching it of like, look, this is like a delicate thing, and I'm like really trying to talk about this sensitively. So like, but like, come with me on this. Like I'm not trying to bum anybody out. And then once I got it, this is maybe like a little bit of cowardice, but this is how I almost always do it. Unless it is someone very close to me and I'm telling something private about them, I will do the thing on stage first. And then once I'm like, I think this is going to be in my act, I will say, hey, I'm working on this bit. Is it okay with you? And I did. I asked my friend Gabe, who the joke is about, and he had like a little note, like nothing that like upset or offended him, but he was just like, oh, I think if you tweaked these two words, it would represent how I see myself more accurately. And I was like, great, easy. And so like, I do think, I think a lot of comics feel really drawn to talking about kind of socially charged, emotionally charged issues. And I think the higher you hang the tightrope, the more careful you should be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking about that, I'm glad you mentioned that joke, because first of all, it's hilarious. It's a hilarious bit. I liked it a lot. It also reminded me, a side note, as I have a friend from high school who transitioned, and, Facebook memories are a very interesting thing. Yeah. And I had posted as a Facebook status, I used to post lyrics all the time. That was I was that guy, Yeah. And back when it was like, your name was attached to the status. So like it would be like, mine was like, Nate Runkle could never take the place of your man, the Prince song.
Sure.
And at the time, before she had transitioned, she had commented on it and said, and I sadly could never be your woman. And I took it, it came up in the memories, and I screenshotted it, and like, I sent her a message. I was like, look, I've been trying to share this with you, and I didn't want to do it publicly because I didn't want to, cross any lines or anything like that. Of course. But I was like, funny how time changes, because now you are my woman, like, yeah. I think the thing about that bit that you have that works so well is that it's not, at no point does any of the laugh come because your friend transitioned. It's all self-directed. And I think like that's one of the things that a lot of comedians kind of, the hack comedians, when I say a lot of comedians, I don't want to be like it. The comedy.
No. But I think there's a lot of kind of, not looking outward without looking inward. You know what I mean? And I think like the looking inward, and this was like, I think there's the bit itself, my real goal, like my kind of guiding light when I was writing it was like, I didn't want it to feel like there was an implicit like no homo as part of it.
Right. Yeah.
And like,
yeah.
To use kind of a crude term, because that's like the feeling that I was like trying to avoid. That is like, I don't want it to feel like I'm holding this person who I care about very much and who is my friend, like at arm's length, and being like, what you are, I don't like our relationship because of what it says about me. I really tried to make it feel like this is a person who is my friend and who I care about. And again, it is like, I kind of right where we started this conversation of like, I am trying to delicately negotiate with myself how I express this, because there are ways to like honor who a person is, and then there are ways to kind of like take too much ownership of your relationship to that. And so I'm like, the joke is basically about not wanting to like claim extra credit where extra credit is not deserved. And so like, I don't know. I think that is, I feel really obligated to do that. And I think it makes the work better. Like I was just talking to a friend the other day about, my friend Kath Barbadoro had posted something, I think on Blue Sky, about like conservative, like big C conservative comedians versus like libertarian leaning comedians. And we were just kind of talking about where the impulse to like poke fun at something comes from. And I was like, honestly, things are a lot funnier. Some things are a lot funnier until you think about their reality. And I think that like, that's something that that like is opposed to a libertarian worldview at times, right? Of like something like, oh, who would, the place that I see it in the most like kind of benign form is like, you see an ad for something late at night and it's like, oh, this is like a hook for, or it's like a grasping claw that you can use to put on your shoes without bending down or whatever. And the like impulse is like, who's so lazy that they need a grasping claw to put on their shoes? And you go, well, this ad is not specifying, because they're probably trying to go wider and increase their market share and not make their customers feel self-conscious, but it's probably for someone with a physical movement disability, right? And it's like, it is, I'm not saying not to think about it. I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying like, it is worth doing that gut check a lot of the time on like, what am I, by making fun of this thing, who's catching this stray, and is that something I'm comfortable with or not? And I think like a lot of comedians, and I'm sure I've done this myself, because I'm like, this is funny to me, and I like didn't want to think further. But I think there's a lot of comedy that only goes that far and then goes like, well, it got a laugh, so I've short-circuited anyone in the audience or enough people in the audience thinking about it at a deeper level. So like it stays,
right. Yeah.
The bit stays in the picture, as it were.
It's funny that you mentioned Blue Sky though, because great place to test it out, because boy, will someone tell you very quickly if you have made that mistake.
I know. Well, so this is the other thing, right? I think the other side of this is you do, as an artist, get to choose what your line is.
Yes.
And I think that is, so all that I've said before, I do think every artist gets to decide, but it is like the audience gets to react as well, and I think like, I'm trying to think, I'm not just like being self-protective about this, but there are certain things that I've had in my act that like one person will maybe reach out after a show or come up to me after a show or leave a comment online. They'll be like, this hit close to home in a way that was painful for me. And then I have to go like, okay, do I know, like, this is a silly example. Like, do I know enough people who have died by falling out of a plane and their parachute didn't open that I can't make that a joke? Like, is this something that is either a big enough problem in the world that it's like making fun of a thing that's like actively harming people, or is this just a subgroup of the general population that is vast enough that it's gonna, like, in every audience there's gonna be 10 people who go, oh man, like my dad, and so I think that's, but then you also get to go, I really feel for you, and I'm sorry you had that experience, and I didn't mean to like dredge up those bad feelings, but like you don't always have to go, and that means that I'm not going to use this as humor in the future.
Yeah, no, I think, and like, this is one of the things, it's been, to me as a fan of comedy, it's been a challenge because, like, I don't know how many comedy shows I've gone to in the past 5 years. I would say probably 98% of them that at some point somebody has to say the phrase cancel or the word canceled. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ. Like so many of you are perfectly fine. Like, no one's coming for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and if they are, it's in the comments, and just take it and accept it. And hopefully you listen. That's the other thing. Like, I just think that people don't want to listen to other people.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I think actually that's the great problem of our time, is that everybody has the ability to talk and nobody has the ability to listen.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I think so much of social media, right, has gone from a place where you connect to people that you know or people that you want to know, and it's become like everyone is kind of their own broadcast center. And I think there is like a real beauty in the democratization or like semi-democratization of being able to like put ideas into the world. And I've certainly benefited from reading and listening to other people's ideas that have been put into the world that way, through social media, or someone has a blog that they share on social media and then that gets shared by someone else. You go, oh, that's so cool. But I do think it feels like it's shifting more and more towards nobody, or not nobody, but more and more people are just broadcasting and not receiving. And if you're not receiving, then it's like, right, then everything is just critics and haters. It's not a conversation.
Yeah. So going back, you got comedy albums and stuff like that as you're growing up. When did you start kind of thinking about comedy as an option? Like, because you're also a very great writer as well.
Oh, thank you.
And not just for your own stuff, but you got a little hardware, I belive, that you've received for writing as well.
Yeah. I've
which came
work with some really great people and part of some really great shows. I've had like a very fortunate time, and I'm very grateful for it. But yeah, I in high school probably, like I would like write silly things when I was a little kid, and then in high school it started to feel like, oh, this is what is clicking for me, is the idea of I am going to I'm gonna be performing, right? I'm gonna act, to try out for the plays and act in the plays, and then there's a school variety show and I'm going to write for that. And so it started to feel like as I got through high school, it became more and more of like, I bet this can go further than this, or I hope it can. So when I was applying to colleges, I was looking for places with, where I could do a creative writing thesis of some kind or another. And I ended up going to Brandeis, where I originally, I think, my plan, and this is 22 years ago, but my plan was originally to go through the theater track and do a playwriting thesis. And then I just didn't like have it in me to do all the theater department stuff, like the practicums and whatever. And I was like, I just kind of want to like write and perform. I don't want to like be stage crew for like 6 weeks for a show and like that kind of thing. And so I switched to I was a short fiction major, but by the time that had decision had been made. I was like doing a little stand up. I was doing improv. I was doing sketch on campus. And so it was like this, it kind of like shifted underfoot. But by the time I was applying to colleges, I was like, oh, I think I have an aptitude for this to the point where like I can take it to the collegiate level. And then by the time I finished college, I was like, I wonder if I can go pro with this. And it took like a few, like by the time I graduated, I was a like low level working stand-up comic around Boston and New England. And then by the time I left Boston 4 years later, I was kind of like touring nationally with a pretty low profile as like an opening act, occasional headliner, headlining some colleges. But I was like, okay, what I really need to do is get somewhere where there is this other creative work, whether it's like, essay writing where there are more outlets for it, or fiction writing, which I gave up pretty quickly. Or like TV I was like, that seems like the way I can apply all these things that I'm interested in and like doing, and see if I can turn that into a job, like that I am like able to live on, because that feels like a steadier thing. And I also knew myself, I was 26 when I moved to New York, and I was like, I don't have, as a person that age, I was not connecting with audiences in a way that I was like, oh, I'm like ready to tour as a headliner and then level up to theaters right away. Like I just didn't have the like experience yet. I was more someone who could do like longer sets in front of younger people. And then when it was like adults in the room, I had kind of, 20 to 30 minutes that I was like, okay, they'll like this, but they didn't come to see me.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. What was the first show you jumped on?
At my first show that I wrote on was I was credited as a creative consultant for one of the later seasons of Billy on the Street with Billy Eichner.
Oh, okay.
And I did like 2 days of extremely freelance, or like it was just like from home. I had sent in a submission packet of like, here's what I think would be cool in the show. And then they brought me in to interview with Billy, which was great. And then he was like, we'll use you for something, unclear what. And then as they got to the end of the season, I got the call that was like, hey, we have this big list of like needs before we go out and shoot these last batch of episodes. Can you turn this around in 2 days? And it was like $300, I think, to do this. But I was like, okay, I'm on the board. Like, this is like, this means there might be more. I'm not like shut out any longer because it had been like 6 months this was in 2013. And I think I did like submission materials that year for like 18 shows when there were like more late night and format shows. And I think people left stuff more often, and like more stuff was popping up, and it's like a chillier time for this kind of work in the industry. But at that time there were like, oh, the True TV has this prank show that they want you to submit for, or that they would take a submission for. And like there were The Daily Show and The Colbert Report and Letterman, so I was like sending stuff to all these shows through, I just signed with a manager. And so Billy was the first thing. And then the first place I caught on full time was I got hired to do the social and digital. I applied as a writer, got hired to do the social and digital stuff at, Last Week Tonight with John Oliver when they were just starting up. So I did that for a year. And then after the first year, they got they could expand their budget for the writer's room, and they brought me into the writer's room.
That's awesome. And then, of course, some that's what, we joked about hardware, some Emmy Award winning stuff in there. Let me ask you a question. You are the second person on this show who has some connection to Last Week Tonight, though the last guest was Dave Hill, whose music
the theme song. Yeah, with Valley Lodge.
Yeah, exactly. But let me ask you this question, because I know John gets it a lot. Do you like Last Week Tonight, Daily Show, stuff like that? You take that as journalism, don't you? Like, I know they don't like to call themselves journalists, but to me, I find like there's unless we create a new word that's in between, like, because it doesn't come across as entertainment to me, because it is, infotainment or whatever. I hate that word. Let's find a better one. But you know what I mean? Like, because I think the Last Week Tonight's writers room probably has a stronger ethics code than a lot of the major news networks right now.
Yeah, I mean, so I think the way I've always thought of it is like, I'm a comedy writer, but I really wanted to get the story right, especially working there. That was like a big part of the job, was to like get it as accurate as you could. And there's a big research staff and a big staff of segment producers that worked with culling footage and digging up the kind of video packages that you would see, over John's shoulder and then full screen, and a research team that would look into studies and like really make sure that we all were understanding things well. And like the comedy writers did and do a lot of reading and digesting of all this material, and like looking through and like digging up our own stuff where maybe there were some gaps or like sources that we really like to go to. But like, I saw myself as like comedian, comedy writer who wants to do a good job again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, representing the story accurately, instead of just doing the thing that is like, here's the funniest version, but it relies on some like misperceptions and misconceptions and some sleight of hand in that way, rather than like, okay, we're going to really understand, or do our best to really understand what we're describing and illuminating for people in a funny way.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, and this goes through, this stands the test of time. I find that everybody likes to say, oh, the comedians are the truth tellers and stuff like that. Well, again, going back to the hack people, but I truly believe that like, that it, like, those shows are morally important, especially now, because the lines have been blurred so deeply in kind of a decorum sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't think that those shows rose to journalism. I think like they just met the time. Do you know what I mean?
I do. And I think like the service that, Jon Stewart was such a huge influence and inspiration for me when I was younger, and still like I really enjoy a lot of what he's been doing back on The Daily Show. And I think something that he brought to comedy was helping people feel like not just validated, because validated just means what you think is right, but helping people feel stable when the news feels so chaotic and stressful and painful to read. And he put a lens on it that was like, if this feels crazy to you, you're not crazy. It is the thing, and I'm going to poke at what makes it feel crazy. Or if this feels dark to you, you're right. And then here's the side of it that like lets you get to sleep at night and not just think about it. And like, I think that is the real service of that kind of show, is that it just like, it can reach an audience and help you understand the world in a way that like you feel like you have your feet underneath you, because it makes it palatable. I don't think it's necessarily, it's certainly not replacing journalism, because you're really standing on the shoulders of the journalistic work that it's based on. But it is like like an emotional cheat sheet, and sometimes an intellectual cheat sheet for like, this is the thing you're hearing about. And like, this is a lens on it that lets you get your arms around it in a way that maybe you didn't have them before, because it was too emotionally daunting, or just like was presented in a way that was complicated for the sake of making it seem complicated.
Yeah, definitely. Jumping around, because I absolutely want to be mindful of the time. So Positive Reinforcement, we talked about it, available now on YouTube, is your latest special, which specifically is something I wanted to ask about, which is the YouTube release, because I noticed this is the common trend. Financially, is this where we're at, that we all have to just kind of release things on our own now? Like, have we been left to as musicians, as filmmakers, as quote unquote content creators, and I don't mean that like it's a bad thing. I just mean like, is this where we are? Is this is it what makes the most sense? Or
I think it's like this double-edged blade where it felt like, and I started stand-up in 2004 when I was in college, and it's like that was before YouTube existed, and so I really do feel like I've seen this tremendous shift, and a lot of it is really good, right? Like I think the good side of it is there are voices that were not being amplified by the existing structures and entertainment industry that found amplification on this kind of self-release model or like social media. And I think that is awesome. I think that's like it brought such beautiful dimension to the to the landscape of comedy, and it let people who were being held back by like status quo and prejudices and bigotries reach audiences that like were really receptive to what they were doing. That rules. I think that's so cool. And then on the other side, it's like, oh, now that the bigger companies, the studios and stuff seem to be having trouble catching up to the new reality of media and like what it is, and they're competing with not just each other but TikTok and YouTube and Instagram Reels and all of that. I think that what's happened now is that instead of saying here's a tool or a set of tools for sharing your work widely and catching and maybe it'll catch the attention of the mainstream stuff and you'll prove that what you've done is undeniable. Now it's like not only do you have to, in many cases, have to show that you're doing this work on your own, but there's also this imperative to be like, it has to be to appear financially viable on its own without intervention from these other companies. And so like we've gotten to a point, sorry, the doorbell rang and my dog is going wild. So we've gotten to a point where I think like you really have to show like you have to be the engine that is driving these, I think entertainment industry always loved stars, but now it's like, no, you have to be a star before, not even just like, oh, we can make you a star. It's like, no, you go make you a star before we give you the budget to do the thing that used to be like, we were the only ones that could do that at all.
Yeah, it is wild to me because like I think about like kind of in that conversation like what like I have to show you that I can do on my own what I'm asking you to do for me.
Correct.
You know what
That's
I mean?
a great way to put it. Totally. And it's like musicians have to show that their music can like spread virally from their own or spread organically through their own release before a label is, I think Halsey, the singer-songwriter, had that recently where a couple of years ago where she was saying like, yeah, my label isn't going to put out this new album until something has gone viral from it. And it's like, so there's no like upfront investment. There's no, you're not getting a push until you kind of don't need the push, which again, that's always existed in various forms, right? Of like, oh, the person that's in demand is the person that doesn't need all this work.
Right.
But now it feels like that you hit that point earlier and earlier where it's like, sorry, we're not going to hire you for this or book you for this or produce this thing with you until you're not just adding like ability credentials, but also like numerically showing that you're bringing eyeballs to us. And it's like, well, that's if you're not bringing the eyeballs, you're essentially just giving me a loan with bad rates to make something.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild too because, like, you know, I had this conversation with a filmmaker recently, and when I say recently, it was probably last year because time's a flat circle and whatnot. But like that, like, no one wants to take risks. Like,
Yes,
no one.
for sure.
There's no risk whatsoever, and like that's like I don't know what happened. Well, I do know it was a corporate move of everybody, and everybody wants perpetual growth and yada yada yada.
Yes.
But like we used to have such a bankroll that like you could take a risk on something and well it didn't work, but let's work it and see if we can make it work. You know what I mean?
And it feels like the kind of Moneyball approach, like the baseball analytics approach, where it's like not just analyzing things that you think people would like, but going like, okay, well, the big outcomes, right, are like a home run. That's what we're going for. Swings are designed to hit home runs. Because that, even if you strike out, you know, if you can have an effective enough home run swing, you'll make up for it on the other side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. But that applied to entertainment, especially, and like what you're allocating resources to means like, okay, if we're only swinging for the fences, you're going to get more and more like IP plays, more and more like sequels and remakes, and a smaller pool of talent, or a pool of talent that has not proven necessarily that they're the best at a job, but that they have the most eyes on them already. And I think it's like a pretty creatively poor way to go about things, to not, because they're used to, I mean, like even the idea of, and I don't blame every individual executive for this, because I think they're all on the hook for creating massive successes at every turn, from like the business people like looking over their shoulders. But there used to be executives, like you'd hear the stories that you'd hear about executives were like, this person believed in this project and they pushed it when no one else would. And now like that, I can't think of the last time I've heard that, or like the last thing that they were just like, yeah, we thought this was creatively what we wanted to do. And now it's just like, Avengers Endgame made more money than Avengers Infinity War. So that's the success. And it's like, okay.
And even from a creator standpoint, it's challenging because like the way the algorithm works, you know, I've talked about this a lot, is that like it can only give you, if you like this, you will also like this.
Yeah.
So it's creating a sameness and you know, there's no reward structure to be different anymore.
And it feels, there used to be like the kind of cliched phrase for like Hollywood directors, right? You go, oh, there's one for me and there's one for you, or even stars.
Yeah.
You go, you do the big box office success, and that buys you both the financial stability and the you know, the industry credibility to then try to do something smaller and that is more to your specific taste. And now it's like one for you, one for you, one for you, one for you. And it seems so much harder for people to like get off the hamster wheel, because it almost feels now like the one for me counts against your track record of one for you. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like,
and
what are you doing something for yourself for? You're just supposed to be, like you said, growth at all costs, like a investor mindset.
Yeah. I mean, like I look at, and this is a way poor person to choose because he's bloody rich and he's not made a mistake. Okay. So I don't want to, but I look at Dwayne Johnson. All right. The Rock. All right. Smashing Machine. Everybody, critics all are like, oh my God, Dwayne Johnson in this, you know, maybe the Academy Award. Does nothing at the box office.
Yeah.
And immediately it's like, hey guys, guess what? Jumanji's back. Like,
yeah.
like,
Totally.
Here's the Moana trailer. Holy
Yep.
crap. Just please forget about it already.
For sure.
It blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. In the interest of time, you want to go through this questionnaire that I do?
I would
This
love
is
to.
what I do with, it's called the Jauntlet. It starts off with the one-hit wonders. These are one-hit wonders in name only of the segment.
Yes.
You're just picking a favorite. So first one, Billy Joel or Elton John? Who do you prefer?
You know, I think probably Elton John is a better artist, but Billy Joel is who I turn to in my personal listening habits more.
Okay, it's the Northeast in you. I get it.
Yeah.
Next one, Debbie Harry or Joan Jett?
Debbie Harry.
I love it. Aretha Franklin or Tina Turner?
Aretha Franklin.
All right. Nirvana or Pearl Jam?
Nirvana.
Janis Joplin or Stevie Nicks?
That's tough. I think it's got to be Stevie Nicks.
Okay. I dig it. Beatles or the Stones? The big cliche.
I know. I'm Beatles.
Okay, it makes sense. And the last one of the one-hit wonders, Bohemian Rhapsody or Stairway to Heaven?
as a high school theater kid, it's Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, for sure. I always like to, every once in a while, throw a little curveball in here and add guest-specific ones. So in a comedy bent, Pryor or Carlin?
I was always a Carlin guy. I think it just like was so, his work was so in my bones from such a young age that it was just like I was never going to shake that, although obviously both brilliant.
Yeah, for sure. And the one hyper-specific guest one, Jesus or Mero? You don't have to pick. I'm just being a dick.
Extremely funny. Very funny.
That's actually how I you came on my radar was
Jesus and Mero. Yeah,
because I used to post on a message board with Jesus way back in the day. OK Player.
Yeah,
and
of
that
course.
was and so following him and that their whole path, that was just the ups and downs.
Really, really funny guys. It was such a joy to be a part of that show.
I bet. The second half of this is the top 10 countdown. In this, we use Jawn to be whatever you want it to be. The first one is First Jawn. What was the first thing you were obsessed with as a kid?
Oh, man. It might have been comedy stuff. I had, in addition to the other comedy records we were talking about, I listened to like the Mel Brooks 2,000-Year-Old Man stuff. I got Carlin albums when I like kind of had my own money, my own money, like $20. And so like it was comedy records was like a big thing for me.
Oh, I dig it.
Adam Sandler was huge. We would like listen to them in the woods, those albums, because they were so inappropriate. And if any of our parents heard them, they would confiscate it. And so it was like you had to have the physical album and we would like listen to it like quiet where no grown-ups could hear.
What's really funny is my wife had never heard They're All Gonna Laugh at You, and I played it for her recently, and I cannot believe how many things in there I forgot existed that I still quote to this day.
This was like early pandemic when we weren't going out and we were just like ruminating. I showed my wife, and this is so funny because I think we're so aligned on so many things, and I was like, this is a real risk because this is truly like 12-year-old, probably 13-year-old me recommending this to you through space and time. And I played her the goat from What the Hell Happened to Me. And she was like, what is this? No, thank you.
It was great. The beating of a high school janitor is I think every single time I mop a floor gets a little mop all day long.
Yeah, it's so funny. Just like so silly and so gross and dumb in a complimentary way.
Yeah. Number 2, what's your current Jawn? What are you into right now?
Oh, what is my current? We've really been into the TV show The Lowdown, the Ethan Hawke, Sterling Harjo created, and Reservation Dogs before that was so goddamn good. And so like we have one episode left and I'm so excited to watch it.
I still have not started it, but I'm looking forward. Ethan Hawke's like one of my North Stars.
Yeah, he's terrific.
He's great. Number 3, what was the first concert you saw?
The first concert I saw was, I think, Hootie and the Blowfish on the Cracked Rear View tour. That was definitely the first one that I was like, I want to go there. And like my parents were like, all right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Number 4, what was the last show you saw?
This is a good question. I'm sure I'm missing something, but in September, I saw Pup and Jeff Rosenstock in Echo Astral.
Oh, very cool.
And I saw them at the Paramount in Brooklyn, and then I was in Boston for some work stuff while they were on tour in Boston. I saw the Boston show too.
Very cool. That's awesome. That was 4. Number 5, what was your favorite concert you ever saw?
Ooh, I would say one of my favorite. I've seen The Roots a few times, and they're just so wonderful live. And so I've seen them. I went to the Roots picnic the one time they did it. I think the one time they did it in New York City. And D'Angelo was one of the headliners, and that was pretty spectacular. I went with my wife Maris. I think it was before we were married.
I was very upset. Dee was supposed to play the Roots picnic this year in June and then backed out. And now, obviously, I know why he backed out. But what a bummer. That was a tough one because that's a guy who, again, talking North Stars, like just a creative genius.
A true genius. We went to see when Black Messiah came out. and he announced a couple of live shows. One of them was at the Apollo in Harlem, and I couldn't get tickets. I think I just like didn't have it to like whatever the resale cost. I was like, can't do it. And so, excuse me, I kind of begged my way into Saturday Night Live to see when he was the musical guest, and it was awesome. And my wife Maris came with me too. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Number 6, who have you never seen live that you wish you could have? They can be living or dead.
Yeah, I've got a few. My friend, a high school friend, Marcos Valles, who plays with Noah Kahan now, is a drummer, Marcos is, and his band was going to open for James Brown right before James Brown passed away. Like he passed away right before that run of shows. And then Tom Petty is my other one.
Oh, yeah. I'm right there with you. I just told Chris Della Riva this on the last episode, but I was at a Tom Petty show. It was Black Crowes and Tom Petty, and a friend of mine got in a fist fight during the Black Crowes, and we ended up leaving before Tom Petty, and it was like, we'll catch him next time, and then there was no next time. Man,
that's really sad. I have a friend who used to work at music venues and said the Black Crowes, my friend Charlene said the Black Crowes crowds were like the rowdiest crowds, and it was like dads who got a babysitter or like dads who left the kids at home with mom and all went out together, and it was just like wild energy.
Yeah, it makes sense. It tracks. Number 7, name an unappreciated Jawn, something you wish people paid more attention to.
You know, this is widely beloved. This might be a cheat because it's widely beloved, but I feel like there's a new generation. I think I would like to see some kind of like renaissance of the work of Mitch Hedberg.
Oh my goodness. That's so weird you said that, because I literally earlier when we were talking about things like Mitch is one of those people who like I feel like his comedy stands the test of time. Like it's so, and anybody can relate to it. Mm-hmm. And if there's anybody who I wish was alive during the social media 240 characters time frame, it would be him. Like,
yeah, and I wonder maybe young people are finding him that way through clips and stuff, but like that stuff was so formative for me, his stand-up, and I hope that it has an enduring life for a new generation.
Yeah, it's so tight, so good. Great answer. Number 8, favorite album.
Ooh, I think I've got to go with Hold Steady, Boys and Girls in America.
Yes. Oh God, I love that. I just saw Craig's twice this year solo. Cool. So good. Number 9, name an artist whose output you'll consume anything they release.
Man, I'm always so excited when there's like so many. I'm such a creature of habit, and I like really love what I love. But like I always get so hyped when Laura Stevenson puts out new music.
Oh yeah. Great answer. The 10th and final of the top 10 countdown. What is your favorite Jawn of all time? Can be whatever you want it to be.
Oh my gosh, my favorite Jawn of all time. This is a good question. Okay. This is conceptual, but this is it. It's when you're hanging out with friends and you realize that it's like 3 hours later than you expected. And it's like, doesn't have to be because of controlled substances. It could truly just be like, you're really getting into it over lunch and you're just like, whoa, oh shoot, I'm like 2 hours late. That's the best. That's my shit.
That is awesome. That's a perfect answer. So you're about to go on tour or do this holiday show tour with Ted Leo, Amy Mann, Paul F. Tompkins, and Nellie McKay. What an incredible thing. Like, how did this all come about?
Ted and Amy I think it's been Ted and Amy. Amy has done it, I know, for years, and Ted has been there at least almost the whole time. And Paul has done these shows almost the whole time. And sometimes they're just like a few nights at Largo in Los Angeles, and sometimes it's an East Coast tour. I got asked to do it. I think I've told Amy this, but we kind of knew each other through the internet a little bit, and I was on the road a few years ago, and I got an email from Amy Mann that said an impossible request. That was like the heading, and I truly thought it was a political fundraising email, almost just marked as read, and went on with my day. And then I opened it, and Amy, a bunch of people had gotten sick. This was like 2022, and a bunch of people had that were part of the show had gotten COVID, and she said, look, we have the show, everybody's sick, will you come and sub in in this sketch for us? And I said, I'm out of town tonight, but I'll be back for the rest of this run if you want me. And she was like, yeah, please, that would be so helpful. So I did a few shows, and then after that we had, and I knew Ted a little bit more from just like, he's, you know, in the world, he's like one of my favorite musicians forever, both of them really incredible. And so I worked with Amy a couple times in between, like we were on Jonathan Colton's Joko cruise together twice. And then she was like, last year she said, why don't you join us for this tour? We're doing, I think, probably 7 cities. And I was like, great. Oh, that's so fun. And then this year, I didn't know what shape it was going to take this year, or whether I would be invited back. And then like kind of midway through the year, I got a text that was like, hey, are you available for this like 2.5 week stretch? And I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. And so it's like it's the most expansive tour of this kind I've ever been on. So we're going like New York, Alexandria, Virginia, Philly, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and then I might miss something, but we're doing Cleveland and Royal Oak, Michigan, and we're ending in St. Paul, 2 nights in Chicago before that, 1 night in Stoughton, Wisconsin, which is like Madison area. So it's like really across the Northeast and Midwest. I'm super psyched. It's so fun. And like Amy and Ted have written some of the greatest songs in the history of songs. And so like there's that as kind of the backbone of the show and how funny and charming they are. And like Paul is the funniest person alive, and Nelly is like just so incredible voice, so brilliant. And I'm like it's like the one thing that I do where I'm like still the like junior member of the traveling party, and I'm 40. So like it's just like grown-ups, and like Amy's band is so great, and it's like it is really a joy to get to be a part of, and I'm so psyched for the tour.
It's incredible. The tour kicks off on November 28th, continues through December 14th, December 4th here in Philadelphia at City Winery. Tickets available still. I got to make that happen. My wife and I are expecting a kid in March, and
congratulations.
So, thank you so much. It's our first, and so like cool. trying to keep up with shows and stuff like that right now is a little difficult.
I can imagine.
I'm trying to make it. So that's the December 4th here in Philly. The Positive Reinforcement, the special, is out on YouTube, available now. Go check that out. The newsletter that you write that we didn't get to talk about, That's Marvelous, available at that'smarvelous.com, I believe, right?
That'smarvelousnewsletter.com.
Okay.
That'smarvelous.com would have cost a lot of money for some reason.
Okay. That tracks. That makes sense.
Were like, it was like $13,000.
Oh, geez. Okay. So considerable amount of money. Yeah. That's a lot of money. And then of course, you can be found on the socials you're at Josh Gondelman, correct?
Yep, at Josh Gondelman on Instagram, and some permutation of that on Blue Sky and TikTok, and then I've got a couple headline dates coming up, and just check me out. I make myself known.
Yeah, for sure. Josh, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day, coming to the show, and I'll be in touch.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
My thanks again to Josh for hanging out with me on the show today. Positive Reinforcement is out now on YouTube and is available to stream for free. You can find the That's Marvelous newsletter by visiting www.that'smarvelousnewsletter.com. Josh will be in town here on Wednesday, December 3rd at City Winery for the Amy Mann and Ted Leo Christmas Show alongside Amy and Ted, as well as Paul F. Tompkins and Nellie Mackay. Tickets are still available for that, but they are close to sold out. So if you want to go, be sure to get on that pronto. And of course, you can always follow Josh on the socials at Josh Gondelman. Links to all of those are, as always, in the show notes. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast, wherever you get your podcasts from. And guys, it is never too late to get yourself a super awesome Jawn Scout Merit Badge for citizenship of the world just by rating and reviewing us. Don't forget to visit www.yothat'smyjawn.com for the link tree with links to articles, merchandise, all of the previous episodes of this podcast, guest appearances on other podcasts, and more. And while you are there, please be sure to sign up for our mailing list to get all of the updates delivered straight into your inbox. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Yo That's My Jawn for updates and live streams. Follow us on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Substack at Yo That's My Jawn, and search Yo That's My Jawn on YouTube to find the Yo That's My Jawn YouTube channel. Like and subscribe the heck out of that ish. We want to hear from you. Reach out and touch some Jawn. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, y'all. I hope it's a good one filled with family and friends. And if you are traveling this year, I wish you the safest of travels. Blue skies. Until next time, everybody. That's my Jawn. Displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure. You taste things that don't need to be measured. Yo, That's My Jawn is a Lonely Monk production. Written and produced by yours truly, Nate Runkle. Theme song by me, under the moniker Nate 3.0. Special thanks to Fox Run Brands, DX Ferris, Andrew Scott, Maggie Poulos, Dan Drago, Natalie Runkle, and the beautifully vibrant and wickedly stunning Katie Daubney. If you or anyone you know has any ideas they would like to share or any guests they would like to hear on the podcast, please feel free to reach out to us at yothat'smyjawn@gmail.com or hit us up on the socials at Yo That's My Jawn. Until next time, be sure to displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure. Tilt your head back and shout to the world, Yo, that's my Jawn.